The Heir Apparent, childhood in the shadows, early life under a shroud of secrecy. Kim Jong-un's early life is largely a mystery, shrouded in secrecy, a key feature of North Korea's totalitarian regime. Born in Pyongyang to Kim Jong-il and Ko Yong-hui, his birth year is widely debated, with various sources reporting between 1982 and 1984. The reason behind this ambiguity lies in North Korea's strict control over its leadership's personal details. Even the simplest aspects of the Kim family's lives are carefully hidden from the outside world, a practice that began under Kim Jong-il's rule and has continued under Kim Jong-un's leadership. Raised within the highest echelons of power in North Korea, Kim Jong-un's early years were spent in the lap of luxury and isolation. He and his siblings were surrounded by security and lived in compounds far removed from the general populace. At the same time, they were subject to intense political and ideological indoctrination, learning from a young age about the principles of juche, the self-reliance ideology established by his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. Kim Jong-un's life as a child was one of both privilege and secrecy. The country's leadership carefully controlled all details about the Kim family, so much so that even their names and birthdays were often kept secret. Kim Jong-un's exposure to the outside world was limited, with North Korea maintaining a strict isolationist policy. This highly controlled environment set the stage for the complexity of his later life. Private education in Switzerland. In the mid-1990s, Kim Jong-il made the unusual decision to send his youngest son to Europe for his education. This decision was part of a broader trend in the Kim family of exposing potential heirs to international environments. Kim Jong-un attended the International School of Bern and later the Liebefeld-Steinhölzli State School in Konitz, both located in Switzerland. He was enrolled under false identities such as Kolpak or Pakun, as the family sought to ensure his anonymity. His time in Switzerland provided Kim Jong-un with an opportunity to live in a multicultural environment which was radically different from the repressive, isolated society of North Korea. He was placed with his maternal aunt and uncle in an apartment in Switzerland where they assumed the role of caretakers, and their relationship to the Kim family remained a closely guarded secret. During this period, Kim was exposed to the Western lifestyle, an experience that was as formative as it was foreign to him. Despite being a child of North Korea's most powerful family, Kim Jong-un was reportedly a quiet and introverted student. He was known to keep a low profile among his peers. Although his academic performance was average, he had a keen interest in subjects like mathematics and science. However, it wasn't his academic prowess that caught attention, but his other interests, particularly in Western pop culture. While attending school, Kim developed a passion for basketball, a sport that was popular among his peers in Switzerland. His admiration for Michael Jordan, the iconic NBA star, became well known. Kim frequently wore Chicago Bulls gear, including a Bulls jacket and sneakers, a stark contrast to the usual uniforms worn by students in the tightly controlled North Korean regime. His fascination with Jordan was so intense that he reportedly decorated his room with posters of the basketball legend, and he even made detailed sketches of Jordan. This enthusiasm for basketball transcended mere fandom. It became a reflection of his growing interest in the broader Western culture. In addition to basketball, Kim's exposure to other aspects of Western culture, including Hollywood movies, video games, and popular music, had a profound impact on him. However, this interest in the West was tempered by his loyalty to North Korea's regime and the strong ideological training he had received from an early age. Despite embracing certain aspects of Western culture, Kim Jong-un's exposure to these ideas did not lead him to question the system he was born into. Kim's life in Switzerland, therefore, became a study in contrasts. He was growing up in the West, but his North Korean identity and the responsibilities tied to it weighed heavily on him. While many aspects of Western life may have seemed attractive, Kim's family legacy, with its demand for loyalty and secrecy, remained a powerful force in shaping his actions. Fascination with basketball and the West. One of the most compelling aspects of Kim Jong-un's formative years was his deep fascination with basketball, particularly with the NBA and the iconic Michael Jordan. As a young boy growing up in North Korea, Kim was often sheltered from Western influence. However, his time in Switzerland provided him with a window into the broader world, and basketball emerged as one of his primary connections to that outside universe. Michael Jordan, revered for his talent, charisma, and international influence, became not just a basketball player to Kim Jong-un, but a symbol of Western excellence and success. In many ways, Jordan represented the world beyond the borders of North Korea, a world that was both captivating and unreachable for Kim. Jordan's global fame, the massive cultural impact of the NBA, and the appeal of American basketball culture left a profound mark on the young heir. Kim Jong-un's admiration for the basketball legend was more than just a passing interest. It was part of his personal journey of understanding global power structures, athletic excellence, and individual achievement. Kim Jong-un's time in Switzerland, where he attended an international school, exposed him to a plethora of Western culture, and basketball was an integral part of that experience. Reports from former classmates reveal that Kim was an active participant in basketball games, often joining his peers on the court during breaks. Though not considered an outstanding player, he was fiercely competitive. His desire to prove himself and win was evident, which mirrored his later approach to leadership in North Korea. His passion for basketball wasn't just about playing the sport. It symbolized his broader interest in the dynamics of the West, an interest he would continue to nurture throughout his life. Unlike many of his peers in North Korea who were taught to reject Western influences, Kim Jong-un embraced them with a curious sense of awe. His interest in basketball, American culture, and pop culture marked a significant departure from the traditional ideological training North Korean leaders are subjected to from an early age. However, this fascination with the West wasn't solely recreational. It became a tool for Kim to understand the modern world, a world he was both a part of and separate from. Kim's exposure to Western pop culture, including Hollywood movies, music, and the NBA, stood in stark contrast to the values promoted by the North Korean regime. While his admiration for Western sports icons was seen as an indulgence in a form of escapism, it was also a demonstration of his deeper yearning for a connection to the global stage. His fascination with Michael Jordan was not only personal, but served as a reflection of the tension between his desire for global recognition and the strict confines of his upbringing. In the years that followed, Kim's interest in basketball would have a lasting influence on his approach to international diplomacy. His relationship with former NBA star Dennis Rodman, who made multiple visits to North Korea, is one of the most notable examples of Kim's continued admiration for Western basketball culture. Through Rodman, Kim sought not just to cultivate personal friendships, but also to assert his desire for North Korea to be recognized on the world stage, even in defiance of Western sanctions and isolation. Return to North Korea and leadership training. After spending several years in Switzerland, Kim Jong-un returned to North Korea in the early 2000s, a period when his father, Kim Jong-il, began to prepare him for leadership. The decision to return to North Korea marked the start of a new phase in Kim's life, one in which he was groomed for the role of supreme leader. This transition was not an easy one. Kim had to undergo rigorous training to familiarize himself with the intricacies of military, political, and ideological governance. While he had been exposed to Western culture in Switzerland, he was now immersed in a regime that placed immense pressure on him to adhere to its strict rules and expectations. North Korea's leadership structure dictated that Kim Jong-un receive specialized training in various areas, including military strategy, governance, and juche, the state ideology of self-reliance. His education was largely focused on political indoctrination, designed to mold him into the leader his father had envisioned. Kim's education was centered around learning the ways of the Kim dynasty, ensuring he was able to command both the military and political spheres of North Korea. The rigorous training process helped establish the foundation for his leadership style, a style characterized by authoritarianism, political purges, and an unwavering commitment to maintaining the Kim family's grip on power. At Kim Il-sung Military University, Kim studied not only military tactics, but also the nuances of managing the North Korean regime. He learned about the necessity of controlling the narrative, cultivating loyalty among the elite, and preserving the dynastic leadership structure. He was taught how to manage internal politics, how to maintain loyalty among the military generals, and how to deal with international pressures, particularly from South Korea and the United States. Despite being the youngest of Kim Jong-il's sons, Kim Jong-un emerged as the chosen successor after his father's health began to decline. The succession was not without controversy. His older brother, Kim Jong-nam, had fallen out of favor due to a public scandal involving a failed attempt to enter Japan on a fake passport. His other brother, Kim Jong-chol, was not considered a serious contender for leadership, partly due to his temperament and perceived lack of leadership qualities. Kim Jong-un, though young and relatively inexperienced, was seen as a viable candidate to uphold the regime's stability and continue the Kim family legacy. In the lead-up to Kim Jong-il's death in 2011, Kim Jong-un's rise to power became more apparent. He was increasingly featured in public events, signaling that he was the designated heir. During this period, Kim was assigned high-ranking military titles, solidifying his role as the successor. The leadership of North Korea carefully staged his public appearances, preparing him for the moment when he would formally take over as the country's leader. The passing of Kim Jong-il in December 2011 marked a defining moment in Kim Jong-un's life. At just 27 or 28 years old, he ascended to the position of Supreme Leader of North Korea, inheriting a nation that was deeply isolated and heavily militarized. The world watched with great curiosity to see how the young leader would manage the pressures of leadership, given the backdrop of North Korea's economic struggles, political isolation, and tense relations with the global community. Kim Jong-un's initial years in power were defined by consolidating his hold over the country. He quickly moved to eliminate any potential threats to his leadership, including executing his uncle, Jang Song-thaek, in 2013. Jang had been one of the most influential figures in North Korean politics, and his execution sent a clear message to anyone considering challenging Kim Jong-un's authority. This brutal consolidation of power was not only a demonstration of Kim's commitment to maintaining control, but also an indication of the ruthless measures he was willing to take to preserve the regime. During his first years in office, Kim Jong-un focused on strengthening North Korea's military capabilities, particularly its nuclear and missile programs. Under his leadership, North Korea conducted multiple nuclear tests and missile launches, showcasing its growing nuclear prowess and its ability to defy international sanctions and pressures. Kim Jong-un's approach to international relations was marked by a defiant attitude, as he refused to bow to pressure from the international community, especially the United States and its allies. This aggressive stance on military development became one of the defining features of his rule. Despite his harsh leadership and the continued emphasis on military development, Kim Jong-un worked to craft an image of a modern and dynamic leader. His desire to bridge the gap between North Korea and the outside world was evident in his personal interactions with international figures. One of the most notable instances of this was his relationship with Dennis Rodman. The former NBA star visited North Korea multiple times and forged a peculiar bond with Kim Jong-un based on their shared love for basketball. Rodman's visits to North Korea were widely covered in the media, drawing attention to Kim's fascination with basketball and his attempt to create a personal connection with a prominent American figure. This friendship was symbolic of the strange intersection between Kim's personal interests in Western culture and his political responsibilities. Through Rodman, Kim sought to portray himself as a leader who was not entirely out of touch with the outside world, even as his regime remained deeply committed to isolating itself from the global community. Kim Jong-un's journey from the shadows of secrecy to the supreme leader of North Korea is a study in complexity. His early exposure to Western culture, particularly through basketball and Michael Jordan, offered him a glimpse into a world vastly different from the one in which he was raised. This experience in Switzerland left a lasting impact on his worldview and continued to influence his actions as leader. While his interests in the West, especially basketball, were not just personal hobbies but a window into a larger global system, they also illustrated the contradictions at the heart of his rule. As a leader, Kim Jong-un has sought to preserve the Kim family's legacy while asserting his own identity as the ruler of North Korea. His leadership has been defined by military expansion, political purges, and a focus on ensuring the survival of his regime. Despite his fascination with Western culture, Kim's leadership continues to reflect the authoritarian nature of the regime and the total control that the Kim family wields over North Korea. Through his relationships with figures like Dennis Rodman and his strategic use of basketball as a cultural bridge, Kim Jong-un has crafted an image of a modern leader, one who exists at the crossroads of tradition and change. Kim Jong-un's leadership reflects the paradoxes of North Korean society, a society that is both deeply isolated and increasingly aware of the broader world. As he navigates the complexities of ruling a nation on the edge of global conflict, his story remains one of contradictions. A leader with a deep fascination for the West, yet resolutely committed to maintaining the isolation of his nation and the power of his family.